And we're live.
Hey there, everybody. It's the Friday Hangout. It is Friday once again. That time comes about once a week for some odd reason, and we're all here together to discuss digital marketing, branding, social media, things related to that, and the people that we find awesome and fascinating in the same area. And this week we have Mr. Joel Comm. How are you doing, Joel?
Where?
Where?
Where? Oh, hey. Wait, this is a business show? I was told there would be cookies.
There are cookies, just not for you.
That's for the post-show reception. And we also have Janet Fouts. How are you doing, Janet?
Thank God it's Friday. This whole week has just compacted, and now it's finally Friday, and I only have to work Saturday and Sunday, so I'm good.
And you only have to work Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah.
I work for the same boss. If you don't come in Saturday, don't bother coming in Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. How you doing, Steve? How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good.
So our show today is titled "Branding the Entrepreneur," and we had to find something that sounded business-ish and constructive, and worth coming to initially. But really, I'm sure that this show is going to be filled with a little bit of off-script discussion, still probably on topic, and the reason being is
I have my script right here. I'm not going off of it.
Yeah, you using real actual paper? Come on, man.
So it was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
And so I want to introduce Joel Comm for those who don't know. And in fact, funny thing is I had only heard of Joel via comments and things and stuff that I saw him putting on other folks' Facebook posts that I was connected with. I did not know who the guy was. Apparently, he's been around for a while.
And he's a somebody.
Yeah, he's a somebody.
He's a somebody.
And we all actually on the show here had the pleasure of being with Joel for a couple days at a big Cisco conference event where we were all mistaken for influencers and asked to go. And I got to tell you, I fell in love with Joel, and I like falling in love with people without the this guy, I got to meet him. I just thought he was cool because he was cool when he was there, and real authentic guy. And came afterwards to find out that Joel has been doing stuff on the internet specifically, not Jennifer Lawrence type stuff, but been doing stuff all over the...
You don't know that.
That's true, actually.
And we don't want to know that.
But Joel's basically has had two his careers. You were big early in the internet days, and you took a little side trip. You've come back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm back. So now you have to suffer through it with me.
And when you've been an entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, consultant for many years, probably taking each of those forms at different times, and again returning back to those. And so I think it's a bit different than, say, sort of having somebody on that just in the last few Facebook years or MySpace years has sort of grown their personal brand. You've been doing so for, dare I date you, a couple decades, right, Joel?
Yeah, I got in this game in 1995. I built a website, not having any idea what I was doing, but thinking this is cool technology, and I think this whole web thing is going to take off someday. And so there was only 18,000 sites in the world that year, and mine was one of them. So it turns 20. WorldVillage.com turns 20 next July.
And it's one of the ones that's still alive, which is really amazing, because some of
it's
those
on
early
life support,
sites...
but it's there.
So it's nice to keep them alive,
So I'm actually kind of curious between the two. During your break, one thing I really wanted to know is, like, you actually have a huge following now, and I'm curious how much of that in your Uber connected, how much of that is new versus how much did you carry over kind of from the first time you kind of made a big splash on the internet?
I think the first 10 years that I was doing business online, really up until, I want to say 2005, it was very segmented fame. In the affiliate marketing space, I had done well, and those who knew me from my community of World Village and knew that I created the Yahoo Games site, or sold the site to them that became Yahoo Games, There's a segment of people who've been following me a long time, but really it was in 2005 when my AdSense ebook came out, when I wrote the first edition of What Google Never Told You About Making Money with AdSense, that my career really just took off in a number of other spaces. And so the following has been the second part of my career more than the first.
Yeah, I wanted to ask because I remember hearing this a couple years ago when folks started to really more frequently use the term personal branding. There were a lot of folks that just basically said there is no such thing as a personal brand. A brand is only a business. People cannot have brands. I have my opinion on that because I actually know what the heck a brand is, and I don't believe those folks actually knew what a brand was. What's your opinion on that, Joel?
Yeah, they must have taken a college course or something and read a textbook about it, and that's where they got their information. I am my brand, right? Whatever I do, I take my brand with me. And
define what's your definition of a brand?
oh, I don't get all technical with me. I don't know. I'm like it is the personification, the objectification, the subjugation, I'm trying to think of all the. It's a vacation. It's who I am. It's the core and essence of who I am, what I believe, what I choose to share, my persona. It's the authentic me. That is my brand, and it's not something that has to be manufactured, right? When we create a brand, for Arrowhead Water, that needs to be created. What are we going to call it? What signifies what this thing is? What's the public perception? How do we want people to relate to it and think about it? When we are a personal brand, it's all about just who we are and how we engage with others and what boundaries and lines we draw. For some people, their brand is really out there. They'll say whatever comes to mind and damn the torpedoes, right? With me, there's a certain number of things I share and some things that I won't, and that's all part of my brand. Does that somehow answer the question? I don't even know.
I think it does. A guy named Patrick Stickins, who I had the pleasure of getting to know through social, and wrote a book called Brand Aid. He had a great thing. It says, people talk about personal brands. It says, if anybody can say, hey, you know who, insert your name here, is great at X, you have a personal brand. And there's there's something that people know us for. And so, I think that absolutely rings true in terms of, like, it is all those things. It's like, if people, people think about you and they go, hey, that Joel Kaminsky guy with a K.
It may have been. Who knows?
Komm.
Butchered it dramatically.
It was just for anybody who doesn't know, Joel Comm is Joel's real name, even though it sounds like Joel.com. But I think it was a couple generations ago. It used to have a K, Komm, and then you speculated it might be Kaminsky or something like that.
Yeah, I'm impressed, Steve. You remember that conversation.
Steve does his homework.
That's impressive.
So even to distill it down further, if you take the Marty Neumeier brand gap sort of definition, really what a brand is essentially the mental and sort of emotional association somebody has when they think of you, and usually that ends up. Joel, it looks like you want to write a note down all of a sudden or something like that.
Well, no, what you're saying, isn't that what I said? I'm sure that's exactly what I said.
It is, but I think what's interesting is that you basically said it based on your authentic view of how you associate your own personal brand. I wanted to extract that a little bit and say, that's the business definition, and even the business definition, it was applied primarily to businesses based on Marty Neumeier's book, The Brand Gap. But if you really look at it, it applies to anything. And like you said, it's about the consistent experience, the expectation that people have from having repeatedly interacted with you, the level of trust they have with you, the sort of voice you have, the personality you exude, that authenticity that comes from you as well. How do you, when you initially talked about it not being contrived or sort of manufactured, so then how does somebody not just simply be themselves, but be a little bit more cognizant of how they're building their brand while being themselves, while being not manufactured and authentic?
Well, I think you get a lot of feedback from people, right? When you post stuff and see how people engage with you, and you see where you end up bringing the most value to others, right? This helps to define when you understand how people see you and perceive you. It helps you to it reflects back to you. Oh, this is how I connect. We're on our own skin, and we don't think about these things. It just stuff just happens, and I don't have a master plan for branding myself. The easiest thing for me to do, what I've discovered after 50 years of being alive, is to just be me. And there's so little effort required to being me, unless you're you. If you're you trying to be me, there's a ton of effort required. And not only that, you can never do it. So why try to be anybody than who you are, and just accept that these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, love me, hate me, warts and all, here I am.
Well, and from an entrepreneur standpoint, that's even more important because entrepreneurs, especially serial entrepreneurs, tend to build out multiple brands that are attached to their businesses. But in the end, you're really attracted to the brand that's the entrepreneur and what they've built and what they stand on. And if you can build out that persona of who that is and hold it up over a period of time, then that really helps to perpetuate your business, and people actually gravitate towards you because of that. Am I right?
And you're right. And here's how that happens, Janet. It happens organically. I didn't set out to become this sort of Renaissance guy that was going to do all these different things and be known for so many different books and products and services. I just did different things because they were interesting to me. Books, products, services, video, podcasting, blogging, all this stuff. I did it because it's interesting to me. And when you're an entrepreneur and you're willing to take risks and you're willing to swing for the fences every time, you're going to miss a crazy number of times, but you're also going to hit it out of the park. And you do that a few times, and people look at you and go, I like what this guy is doing. I want to pay attention to him.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like an element of that, as you're saying, is not necessarily about. I mean, you're talking about being authentic, and then ultimately about putting yourself out there. Once you put yourself out there, you allow folks to see who really are and sort of capitalize on that in a bigger way. And in the past, that would be a little bit harder to put yourself out there. But now, since '95 when you first started, and all the way up until now, we've got a couple phases of things on the tubes that we call the internet, right? So, I mean, you started right when the internet was starting to make itself known. How have you seen the internet and then ultimately social media change how we can share that personal brand of ours?
Oh, well, I mean, you just said it. Two things have changed the world: social media and this device right here. This has revolutionized everything. The world has changed so dramatically, especially in the last 8-9 years, right? If we look at that, when MySpace was when the shift was going to Facebook and to Twitter, and I had my accounts in 2007, and when Apple launched the first real smartphone in 2007, everything changed. And now, I mean, look at us. Google, it used to be so complicated to do video conferencing. And now Google's got software that anybody can launch. We're instantly hanging out from the remotest parts of, well, in this case, the U.S., but we could be around the world and instantly communicating. And so because we now have a global audience, every day people follow us from all over the world, and our message is getting out there, and they're sharing our content. And when they share our content with their friends, now we're reaching all these people as well. The trickle down effect. It's no longer, I'm old enough to remember the shampoo commercials where the shampoo's so good that you'll tell two friends and they'll tell two friends, and so on and so on and so on. I know Janet's like,
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, well, it's not they'll tell two friends anymore. It's now they'll tell 100 friends. And they'll tell 100 friends, and they'll tell 1,000 friends. And as somebody big shares it, Robert Scoble shares what you're doing, he's telling 600,000 friends. It's amazing how quickly the reach of somebody can expand. And if you're doing something that's cool, boom, you become instant internet famous.
But a lot of people think that's really going to be easy, right? That they're just going to be able to set up a Twitter profile and they're automatically going to, have thousands of fans and people will flock to their door and buy their product, and that's just not the way it is. So, how can we educate them on how long that time frame is? What does it take to kind of get through the door and start seeing a return on all the energy that you really have to put into this? Because you didn't get there, sitting on your butt. This was work.
Well, actually, I probably was sitting on my butt.
In front of a computer.
Yeah, I'm not a stand-up computing guy, and I'm not a stand-up comedian. I'm actually a sit-down comedian, a sit-down and shut-up comedian. That's where I'm my funniest. They learn by, well, hopefully, if they want to learn Twitter, they'll go out and buy a copy of Twitter Power: How to Dominate Your Market One Tweet at a Time. Third edition, yeah, right. Third edition now being written. Wiley signed me to do Twitter Power 3.0 to come out next spring. So 5 years after the last one. But by following, by observing what people are doing, and the best way to get started, right, on Twitter or any site is by following people who are talking about things that are interesting to you, things where you can bring value to the conversation, and engaging with those people. How the question to ask is, what do I have to offer? How can I bring value to the world around me? How do I help others? And then you seek out those that have problems where you can provide a solution. You look for those who have questions where you can go, ooh, I know the answer, right? It's by inserting yourself into the conversation and bringing value. And that could be just by engaging with others on social. It could be through links that you share. It could be through a product or a service that you offer that provides solutions. There's a lot of different ways to skin that cat, but it's all about thinking, how do I help others first?
Yeah, one of the things I was really, it was an interesting collection, the Cisco live event, which Brian Kramer's group put together, and who's been a guest on this show. It was interesting. There are some really good folks there, and I've experienced this before hanging out with other folks who are in influencer programs and stuff like that. And I always get a sense that we're kind of almost like a collection of Rebecca Blacks, in the sense of like we have this kind of micro celebrity, which is kind of happened as a byproduct of something we were doing, and we're all trying to figure out how to keep our 15 minutes of fame go further and make a living doing it. And like you said, it's really about doing stuff, trying new stuff, providing value, and all those things. But what are some of your hard lessons learned? The ones that you didn't do something, you did something and you thought this would be good, and you realized you made a bad decision.
Boy, how long do we have? Right? There's more bad decisions than there are good ones, right? Nobody bats 1,000, and in entrepreneurial realm, nobody bats 500, right? You go after stuff and you fail a lot. So I've had multiple failures. I'll talk about a big one. Back in 2008, I saw where mobile marketing was going, and I built a mobile marketing platform that was kind of like a GetResponse, an AWeber of mobile, that there would be autoresponders built into it. And I put a good 6 figures, into it. So there's time, there's money, there's labor, there's attention, there's distraction. And because I was so involved with other projects at that time, my iPhone app was hugely successful, my books were selling great, I was speaking and doing training, I didn't give the mobile marketing platform a fair shake. And then, the industry started changing, so I tried to get investors, and that didn't work out. And then I tried to actually sell the technology to another startup. And that didn't work out. And one day in 2011, this thing is still a drain on me. I'm still paying thousands of dollars for my short code. And I decided, you know what? It's time to kill it dead. And I pulled the plug. And I honestly thought that when I pulled the plug on this project that I had majorly invested in with time and money and labor, that I would have this sense of grief. I didn't. There was a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. And that's when I figured out that I stopped failing the moment I stopped paying for it. And it's a lesson that I learned, and now I get, my expensive lesson is now shared with thousands of people, and hopefully it'll help them to not make the same mistake and to move on when they do have something that's not working out.
Yeah, I'm hearing. You talked about how many mistakes that you've had, sort of in a broader sense, and that's a byproduct of what we talked about initially, right? Which is putting yourself out there and allowing yourself to be authentically you, authentically us. We make mistakes, and sometimes when you put yourself out there a little bit more publicly, Not that that particular mistake may have been public, depending on how publicly you discussed that particular project and it's sort of killing off. But that Brian Kramer, again, our friend, he talks about that human to human element, and he has an ebook that he pitches with that. And with that book, he's sharing a photo here. I love that photo, by the way. I love it, love it, love it. Those who can't see the live video stream, that is me over there, and that's Brian in the middle. But he talks a lot about being human as even a brand, as a company, means allowing yourself to make mistakes. You did talk about sort of a personal brand not being something that should be manufactured, but I will say each of us probably knows at least a handful, if not a few hands full and feet full of folks that actually do manufacture their brand, or there is a very easy way to not a very easy way, but eventually we can tell that their brand is all a behind the computer's brand and not really something that they can authentically carry on when you meet them in person. Right. What do you think are the downsides? And I would really like everybody to chime in on this. What are the downsides to folks thinking that they could take advantage of their ability to sort of craft and curate who they are online in order to sort of manufacture the success that they would like to see, or manufacture the way that they'd like to be perceived, rather than stick with their authentic self?
I'm going to let Steve and Janet answer that. I just really want to know how many are there in a feet full of people.
It's the number of digits. Just hold your feet up.
Well, I know how when you hold something in a hand, there's a handful, right? How do you? I mean, or we're primates. We hold them.
Yeah, there are some things that we just don't share a lot about Adam, but he's got skills.
My prehensile tail as well. Steve, Janet, what do you think of that? I mean, the downsides of not being authentic or trying to create this digital versus analog personal brand?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that one of the things you're right. What's interesting is you meet people who the people who succeed, I think, in doing what we do are people who actually have something to say, willing to take the hits when they're wrong, or willing to at least have explain how we got there. But there are, and a lot of people, it's interesting, a lot of people kind of who do this are former consultants in one way or another, worked in an agency life or had some place where they were accountable to the clients, because clients always make you explain your thinking. And so you get in this, you have to be able to say, here's how I got there. And if you go to the corporate world, I've had thousands of meetings where I go, why do you want to do that? And they go, and because they get by just saying words. If someone pays you, you have to give a response. So I think it's like the old Hollywood thing, Hollywood, when you scrape away the glitter, you find more glitter, and like people who are like that, they run into their shallow depths quickly, and at some point, people who survive in one fashion or another are people who are actually able to have conversations, explain how they got there. You don't need to be brilliant. All you have to do is be articulate and be willing to have a conversation and be reasonable, I think.
But the thing is that is so much work. To put up a fake persona and to maintain it and remember all of the stupid things that you've created to create that persona is just way too much work. Just being authentic is so much easier, and it's also a lot better because you're actually talking to people, you're having conversations, they realize that you're walking the talk. And if you don't, I just really don't have time for you. I just take your glitter and go.
I'd be curious, just in terms of looking at branding, when you look forward to your Twitter 3.0, what do you think would be different fundamentally from your previous book that would be in there in the sense of how have things changed in your mind?
Well, Twitter is still 140 characters. That much stays the same. I think we have a better understanding of what works in the social space now, and while I was talking about the philosophy of just being yourself and engaging with people 5 and 6 years ago, we have a more hard data today that really emphasizes this, and there's so many brands that still don't get it. And then there's some functional changes. We have lists, we have a cover now, your profile design is different, we have third-party applications have come and go, and there's been changes. The people that we're following, when I wrote the first book, Ashton Kutcher was like 1 million followers, and that was the big news. Well, today we've got people with 40 million followers, and Twitter is embedded in our media, right? Turn on the TV and there's hashtags and there's @ signs, and it's just such a part of the new media revolution that businesses and brands that are not participating or ignoring it at their own peril.
I think you're right in the sense that more so now, because profiles and some even channels are dedicated to more visual mediums, that changes things from in the past. You're talking about 95, where you're talking AOL, right, and a number of other sort of places like that where you had fake names, let alone you never really showed your photo, so to speak. And nowadays, you've got many profiles that try to authentically show who you are. Facebook was one of the first networks that tried to say, please use your real name and have a real profile, and sort of, I think, pushed forward people being themselves rather than a persona. Joel, what was your persona like? What was your username that you were well known for back in the day when that was what you were using?
I was the mayor, because worldvillage.com, my first site, was a virtual community, and I was the mayor of that village. And this was back when we had image maps. I was very inspired by Disney and the hub concept of these different worlds. And so if you'll go back and look at the history of World Village in its early days, there was the schoolhouse, that had educational software reviews and articles, and there was the gamer zone with the rocket ship, that would all be all about games, and the multimedia cafe, and the village chapel, and the office. And so I was the mayor of the virtual village, and there's somewhere out there's a caricature of me with the mayor hat on, and that was really for the first 10 years, that's who I was known as.
Janet, did you have a popular persona that you is suitable for work that you could share with us? Or
all right, I'll tell you my dirty little secrets.
When
we first started on the Rail, it was an online community for the restaurant industry, right? And those were the days when everybody had a persona. And it was really hard to build community. And I confess that I had at least a dozen personas that were all arguing with each other in the forums until we got things going. And that was really how we got the discussions going. And I'm ashamed to say it, and I don't want you to do it now, but we did it then as a matter of course, because we had to get the conversations rolling.
You had all those digital personas arguing with each other, similar to how Steve in his voice is in his head, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Steve, how about you? Do you have Farnzarelli, or was that your call sign back then, or what?
No, I mean, I didn't really have a lot of that. I mean, probably the only one I had kind of early on was some different Twitter IDs and that kind of stuff. I was the real, one of my early incarnations was the real PR guy, or real PR man, or something like that. And Jenny Dietrich, before I ever knew who she was, sent me a tweet saying, "You should be the fake PR guy." I had no idea what that one meant. And then she was like trying to call me out. I was like, "Who is this?" And Jenny was just being Jenny. She was just having fun. We actually ended up becoming really good friends.
So what? I was just thinking a little bit, Joel, of also, speaking of putting yourself out there and being so much transparent. You made a decision a while back. I don't know if this was sort of originally your weight, or if you had gained some weight over time in your entrepreneurial adventures, but you turn around and you shared your weight loss. I went to your YouTube channel, and that's where I discovered sort of what you had going on there, and you sort of shared the adventure of losing weight, and how you did so, at least on YouTube, if not in a number of other places. So you definitely were taking different pieces, both professionally and personally, and putting yourself out there, right?
Well, yeah, and I knew I was going to lose the weight. It wasn't a question. There was no try. There was only do, to quote our friend Yoda. And so I thought, if I go public with this, two things will happen. One, there's a sense of accountability, because I'm telling the world I'm going to do this, and now I don't want to look like an idiot. So there's that. But also I thought, because I have a platform, why not inspire a few other people along the way? Because it's something that a lot of us struggle with. And so I put it out there, and the mission was accomplished. I lost a lot of weight. I've kind of found a good base right now that, You know, there's just a little bit around my middle because I got really skinny. And a number of people over the past few years, when I see them in person or they write me, they tell me that they saw my videos and that inspired them. So that makes me happy.
How can somebody get started? If we have somebody that's listening to this right now, and we've talked about some broader general things, but how can somebody, today, for instance, somebody who's more along the lines, their level of social media interaction is really more of a lurker or a spectator and a commenter, rather than somebody who really is putting themselves out there in an effort to really allow somebody to get a taste of their brand and then maybe even capitalize a little bit on that if they would like to leverage it professionally. How can somebody who's maybe a little bit more of a lurker or a commenter take the next step to building their personal brand online?
Well, they have to decide what they want, right? Not everybody has, we all have different personalities. I'm different from you and from Steve and Janet. We're all different from Steve. And you never know.
I get no love.
He's special.
I think everybody gets to use social the way they want to. They need to find their comfort level. Some of us, we're just more out there than others, and some people, they like to lurk. And if that's their thing, I would never tell somebody, well, you should do this. You should be on LinkedIn and you should be creating videos. You can do all these things, but it's a personal choice. And I think what really needs to happen is you need to find your own voice, decide which sites you want to use, how you want to use them, how frequently you want to use them, who you want to hang out with, what you want to be known for. But it all comes down to those personal goals. And once you figure that out, then just do what you want to do. It's really not more complicated than that.
Yeah, and I would just say do what you want to do is like, I think that's absolutely true, but part of it is like, going back to people who have personas that maybe don't have the intellectual gravitas that they pretend they have, is the thing is like start putting your ideas out there, and start talking, sharing those ideas through your own blog. Either comments are great, but you should be putting those in a blog that you're promoting and following, or engaging in those social things, or taking part in stuff. But sharing your opinion doesn't mean you have to be arrogant or saying my opinion is the only opinion. It's like you have to share your idea and have a point of view, bring insight to it. And I think you can do it two ways, and I think this is hard for people. You can share stuff that you know, which is good, and I think it's really good. You can also go out and talk to people you feel highlight different points of view of something you're trying to bring light onto or try to share with people. And these are both great ways. So if you really want to build your brand, you can go out and do this. You can go out and learn what other people are thinking too, and share your own site directly in that or post that. So you just have to have something. You need to have something to say that's interesting and well thought out, and share how you got there. And that's really scary. I think most people don't do that.
I think most people don't realize that they have something interesting to share if it's a topic that interests them in the first place, rather than, oh man, Joel
Janet, can you highlight that picture? Yeah, there you go. That's really good.
Very special.
But I actually show this. One of the points in showing this is one of the ways that I brand myself is I share a lot of pictures. People give me grief for doing selfies, and here's the real deal on that. I don't need to show pictures of myself. People connect with that. When we see pictures of the people that we're friends with, it becomes personal. Rocket science right there, all up in your face. And I like to take the pictures of myself and I'll share quotes. Things that I find interesting. Let me see if I can find one I've recently shared here on my desktop.
I'm sure you can find 5 or 10 quotes that you said here that are fascinating.
Here we go. So, like, I just put this one up the other day. Somebody was talking about the importance of being thought leaders, and I'm like, thought leader is so pretentious. Thought leader, I lead with my thoughts. So if you're not a thought leader, what are you?
You're a follower. Leader? You're a thought follower.
Thought leader is a term that we used to apply to people in a term of endearment, rather than aspire to apply to ourselves all the time, or to So that's I think what's happening a lot right now is folks are thought leader or a subject matter expert. You are you are those if other people deem you that based on the value of what you share and the value of what you produce and the conversations that you have. I mean, you talked about everybody being different, Joel. I would say, though, that sort of the underlying thread, and I think everybody here would agree, the underlying thread about having a good personal brand is having a sense of integrity about that, because now more than ever, if you are being fake or you're screwing somebody over or you're lying or you're not following through, because one of the best elements of a brand is a good brand promise, and a promise means you say you're going to do something or you say you're going to be something, and then you ultimately do it. As a business, you do that, right? And as a person,
imagine that.
And as a person, you should be doing that as well. So that's it. That doesn't differ no matter who it is that's out there trying to sort of increase their personal brand. If you're being dishonest and you're not following through, don't promise to do something you can't achieve, because ultimately your brand will go to waste no matter how much value in the conversations you're providing.
And I see that happening. I just saw that happen with another person who posts, I won't say any names because I don't like to call people out, but I love to use them as case studies and change their names. There was a guy that posted on Facebook the other day how if you want to be a millionaire, hit me up. Within the next 3 years, I can make that happen. And this is a guy who owes people money, right, as a promoter. And I'm thinking, man, you're just, yeah, right. You're just digging a hole for yourself. And here's really the way to fix your reputation is publicly say, I screwed up, whatever it is. I screwed up. I'm going to make it right. If you do that, you know, then all the people that are hating on you, they'll still be haters, but a number of them will come around you and go, you know what, respect for owning up to that and for making this right, and that's how you rebuild relationships.
I think that's really true. The other thing which you said is if you want to put yourself out there, and I expect all of us get it to some degree, is people are going to take you to task. You know, people are going to call you a douchebag in one form or another, and it happens. And I think part of putting yourself out there is like there's always going to be other people you really care about. I mean, you don't like being called. You know, when someone levels an accusation against you, sometimes they're articulate. They're wrong, but they're articulate about it. You got to pay attention, and it's like you got to put yourself out there and just realize that being out there and getting people to respond to you, and occasionally negatively, is the price of putting yourself out there.
And Adam is sorry. Adam is sorry he called you a douchebag, by the way.
Well,
and Steve, to that point, I told somebody recently whose star is sort of rising. We've mentioned him a couple times here, and rising very fast. And I sort of a side comment was, you know, the amount of haters you have is proportionate to the amount of success you have. And I don't mean for that to be like, yeah, if I get hate, I'm awesome. But bottom line is the more, like you said, the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunity those who are already naturally being jerks to other people online are going to be able to shoot some arrows at you and make you feel crappy. And you have to be able to sort of take those punches a little bit and move on, because really those people are just being jerks. It's not that you suck. It's not that you're a jerk. And then there's of course those folks that authentically just want to have a conversation that might be contradictory to yourself, and you need to be able to not take it to heart, so to speak. But would you guys agree that's
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, you haven't arrived until you've got spammers and trolls on your website. I'm sorry. That's just a fact of life.
Just to take an extreme example, I mean, Robert Scoble was a really nice guy, and we all know personally. And so, but it's like he gets taken to task. What was it? He gets taken to task pretty regularly. He did this one shot. It's kind of famous. Him wearing Google glasses, standing in a shower, doing this, and all you can see of him, you can see that he's in a shower.
A famous shower photo.
All you can see is like above his nipples and up, or something like that, right? So you can't see anything. And in fact, he's wearing shorts or something in real life, swimming trunks. But he got all this stuff about being naked in the shower, and even Gawker did all this trash can journalism around him about, you know, how what it is, and calling him a geeky fanboy, stuff, and just really just trashing him merely to drive eyeballs. None of the, you know, there was actually, they even took this one time where these two girls, like probably high school girls, stopped him on the street when he's walking in his hometown, and stopped him and go, what, you know, this is early on by the Google Glass, and they just say, hey, they ask him some questions, they go, that's kind of cool, and he answers the questions, and that's the end of the thing, and he posted that. So one of the articles from Gawker was just about how he's trying to pick up these teenage girls, and it's like, people, not at all what happened, but people will take all kinds of things just to be able to make themselves feel better or to drive eyeballs or whatever. And that's part of the cost of being a little more noted on the interwebs.
So I think there's so much that we could talk about, and normally we go to a second segment and we share some things that we've observed throughout this throughout the week. And bottom line is I love you, Joel. I really like you, man. And
what a bromance.
It's a
let's hold hands, everybody.
Let's all hold hands in the video. Ready? Joel, we appreciate your time, and we wanted to just relegate the rest of the show to talking with you about this. And I actually think we really should sort of, we need to have you back, and we need to have some more conversation around some other topics as well.
When are you gonna do your book?
Yeah, when's the book coming out?
Twitter Power 3 will be sometime in the spring. I'm not sure of the release date yet, but probably April, May.
Well,
go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
I was going to say, make sure that when you're doing your book tour, make sure you include us. We'd love to have you back on.
Boom. Done.
Where can folks find you, Joel?
He'll just send us drone, actually, but
My
He'll deliver it with his drone all the way from Colorado.
I am uniquely blessed to be the only person named Joel Comm in the world. Flying monkeys for the win.
This is a Joel trademark here. Is the flying monkey? That's easy. We're talking to each other.
I have two trademarks. I have the flying monkey, and I also have the ka-ching button.
I actually just listened to that book on the way home from San Francisco the other day. It's quite good.
Did you hear ka-ching when you were listening to it?
I just naturally hear that all day long. Ka-ching.
You know, if we had the presence of mind when we were recording the audiobook, somebody else narrated it. I kind of wish I did now. We would have, at the end of every chapter.
Oh, that would have been good.
Right? But we didn't. JoelComm.com is the place to find me, and anywhere in the social space, I am still me.
Janet, where can they find you?
JanetFouts.com or JFouts pretty much everywhere else.
Steve Farnsarelli, where can they find you?
Steveology on Twitter and stevefarnsworth.wordpress.com. Or, I just wanted to say, we love your faces. Check out our Friday Hangout app. You can get the download at the Play Store or iOS Apple Store. And we appreciate having you on the show, Joel.com.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate all of you and look forward to not only the next time we do this, but seeing you all in person. And I'm hoping maybe I'll see you at Kramer's TED Talk. Are any of you going?
I am.
I'm trying.
All right. Well, I'll see those of you later this month then. And Steve, get out to...
Is that the IBM TED Talk thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll see you there then.
Perfect.
We gotta set up a heckling kind of corner for this, I think.
Oh, we're
go.
Fun.
Hey, Adam, where can they find you?
They can find me at Secret Sushi, pretty much anywhere. I'm Secret Sushi on Twitter, as well as Adam Helway. Beyond our apps, we want to remind you also that you can they yet still subscribe to iTunes at all, Janet?
Not on iTunes.
Okay.
Use the app, but also Spreaker and iHeartRadio.
Okay, Spreaker and iHeartRadio. Spreaker, you can actually subscribe with your podcast player of choice directly on Spreaker. It's got an RSS feed and subscription on there. And we really would appreciate any sort of reviews or ratings that you provide us as well. It helps other people find us and discover us. And you can always visit all the previous shows on YouTube as well as the FridayHangout.com, where we will be again sharing midweek who is coming up next. And we want to. I'm distracted by Steve and his thing over there. All right, you guys, take care and have a good week. Talk to you next Friday.
Bye,
Peace
everybody.
out.